Welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you're tired of modern operating systems acting more like landlords than actual tools, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're diving deep into the world of open source operating systems and demystifying Linux. Now, we're not going to sit here and explain what a mouse is, right? You already know your way around a computer. Instead, we're focusing on digital sovereignty, privacy, and the mechanics of taking back true ownership of your hardware. Let's explore exactly how moving to an open-source ecosystem shifts the balance of power right back to you, the user.
Okay, let's quickly map out our journey for today. We're going to cover what exactly FOSS is, why you'd want to choose open source, how to make sense of all those Linux distros out there, and finally, how to prepare for your very own installation. All right, let's jump right into part one. What is FOSS, or the philosophy of free software? So FOSS stands for free and open source software. Now, you already know that proprietary software keeps its underlying code completely locked down, right? It's a closely guarded corporate secret. Well, FOSS completely flips that paradigm. Open source guarantees that the underlying blueprint of the software is legally available for literally anyone to view, modify, audit, and distribute. And the real impact here isn't just about transparency, it's about security. It means thousands of independent developers and security researchers are constantly auditing the code. That makes hidden backdoors practically impossible to conceal. And honestly, it gives the community the ultimate power to just fork a project if its original corporate sponsors ever lose their way. There's this great quote from Richard Stallman: think of free as in free speech, not as in free beer. And that perfectly captures the core ethos of this whole movement. When people hear free software, the immediate assumption is usually a price tag of zero. And sure, while it's true you generally don't pay a licensing fee to run a Linux distribution, the free we're talking about here is fundamentally about liberty. In an era where everything is shifting to a subscription model, where software as a service basically means you're endlessly renting access to your own workflow, open source provides an escape hatch. It's the freedom to run a program exactly as you want, the freedom to study its mechanics, and the freedom to modify it. The control shifts unequivocally from a corporate entity right back to your own keyboard. Moving on to part two, why choose open source? Let's talk about escaping the walled garden. The contrast between mainstream proprietary systems and the open source alternative is just stark. With proprietary environments, you're fundamentally trading control for convenience. You get vendor lock-in, arbitrary hardware deprecation, and kernel-level telemetry that is, let's face it, virtually impossible to fully disable. And I mean, we've all experienced the sheer joy of our OS deciding to force a reboot for a critical update right in the middle of a super important presentation, right? Open source systems, on the other hand, prioritize transparency and absolute freedom over your machine. Because there's no hidden agenda to harvest your user data for ad profiles, you're handed a deeply customizable workspace that actually respects your privacy by default. You're not renting your digital environment anymore, you possess true digital sovereignty. Okay, let's get into part three, making sense of Linux distros and navigating the ecosystem. Now, the concept of a distribution, or distro, often trips people up at first, but it actually highlights Linux's greatest superpower, which is its absolute modularity. Linux itself is really just the kernel. That's the core layer interfacing directly with your CPU, memory, and devices. To make it a fully functioning operating system, that kernel gets bundled with GNU userland tools, a display server, a desktop environment like GNOME or KDE, and a robust package manager to handle your software installations. So a distro is simply a curated compilation of all these highly modular components. Because the entire stack is open source, different communities can architect these layers in unique combinations to serve some wildly different use cases. For those of you looking to flee restrictive corporate ecosystems, certain distributions act as the perfect bridge. Ubuntu and Linux Mint, for example, are engineered specifically to offer a completely frictionless transition from legacy proprietary systems. They come loaded with pre-configured desktop environments, comprehensive hardware driver support right out of the box, and highly intuitive package managers. But hey, don't let the user-friendly veneer fool you. Underneath that polished, familiar interface, you still retain the full, unrestricted power of a robust Unix-like architecture. You get the stability and ease of a turnkey solution, but without sacrificing root access or system control. And then there are distributions built explicitly for power users who really want to push the boundaries of their hardware. Arch Linux is legendary for offering absolute minimal overhead. I mean, it installs essentially nothing by default.
forcing you to deliberately construct your entire OS piece by piece. Yes, it's notorious for a steep learning curve, but the result is a lean, uncompromising machine tailored exactly to your specific workflow. Alternatively, projects like Fedora focus on integrating bleeding-edge technologies, often shipping the absolute newest kernel features and development tools before anyone else does. The sheer ceiling of customization in this ecosystem is just staggering. Whatever specific edge you're looking for, there's a distro that exists to accommodate it.
All right, let's wrap things up with part 4, preparing for installation. Here is your action plan. Preparing to test drive a Linux distro is actually incredibly straightforward. After confirming your hardware specs and downloading the respective ISO file, you'll just flash that image onto a bootable USB drive. And the brilliant part of this whole process is the live USB environment. Booting directly from the flash drive allows you to thoroughly benchmark the entire operating system in a fully volatile state. You can stress test hardware compatibility, make sure your specific Wi-Fi and Bluetooth chipsets are recognized by the kernel modules, and experiment with the desktop environment's workflow. And you do all of this without committing a single byte to your local storage drive. It is a completely risk-free sandbox.
You know, the infrastructure we've been discussing today isn't just a collection of alternative desktop operating systems. What we're really looking at is the bedrock of modern computing. This globally decentralized network of passionate volunteers, independent researchers, and dedicated professionals has built the very foundation that currently powers everything from the world's fastest supercomputers to the vast majority of the modern web. It's a profound, highly collaborative human achievement that continually proves open standards and collective innovation will ultimately outperform closed-door, profit-driven development. Every single time. Ultimately, making the jump to an open-source operating system is all about reclaiming your digital sovereignty. It's about demanding transparency from the tools you use every single day, refusing to be treated as a mere data point by telemetry trackers, and ensuring that your hardware answers exclusively to you. You have the knowledge now to dismantle the walled garden and build a workflow entirely on your own terms. So the only question left is, which distribution will you claim your freedom with? Thanks for exploring this explainer with me today.